of us are thinking using our concupiscence instead of our conscious. And a result of using your concupiscence instead of your conscious is you're going to be derailed from the great things in life, the things that you should be focusing on. And you're going to be inviting spirits into your life that are going to allow you, thinking with your concupiscence, to be attracted to emotional instant gratification instead of long-term goals. Alright, so I just did that because I wanted to flex my vocabulary. Now, concupiscence means thinking with sexual lust. Okay? And I use that in contradiction to conscious. Your conscious. Concupiscence. I learned that word, strong sexual desire, lust. I learned that word when I was like 10 years old. Now, what I want to do in this video is tell you guys a good strategy, a good tactic, conscious. So I use those words in a contradictory factory. Concupiscence, conscience. So if anybody ever says something emotional, sexually lustful, say, hey, you're thinking with your concupiscence, your concupiscence instead of your conscience. You know what I mean? Hit them with that, and they're going to say, huh? Say, look it up. But when I was 10 years old, I learned a tactic for myself. See, I was naturally interested in writing. I was naturally interested in words. You know, I wasn't really a big reader or anything like that. I just used to love to flex vocabulary. I used to love to write essays. I used to write essays for college students when I was like 12 years old, and they would get A pluses, right? So I'm going to give you the tactic that I learned back then that kind of made me into a verbal master. And basically all I did was I went to dictionary.com. Go to dictionary.com. Well, back then I would actually go to a regular book dictionary, and I would write down really big words, right? Synonyms. I would write them down in a notebook, and whenever I had to write an essay for school or something like that, I would go to my my list of big words and, pick different words. And, then eventually I went to dictionary.com. And they always have a word of the day. This is their word of the day, piebald. I don't know if that's pronounced right. Let's see.
Piebald.
Yeah. Meaning, examples, and podcast. That's the definition of that. Oh, no, it's not. That's another. All right, having patches of black and white or of other colors. Party-colored. Having patches of black and white or of other colors. Piebald has nothing to do with pieing bald people in the face. In fact, piebald describes a physical characteristic found in many domesticated animals. Instead of walking around with the coat of their wild ancestors, one that is well adapted for the natural environment and can provide camouflage, domestic animals show up to the dauntless. Fearless, intrepid, bold. Okay. Cynoscope. Synescope. I don't know how to pronounce it. Let me see. Synocope.
Syncope.
Syncope, see? And basically just doing stuff like that. I would go to dictionary.com. I would look up the word of the days. And say, for example, if I was writing an essay or I was writing something, right, I would go to synonyms, because you can change it to synonyms. You can go from definitions to synonyms, and say that you're trying to find a better word. Say, okay, instead of using the word let's use understanding, right? Say you're using the word understanding in a letter, in an essay, and say you want to find a better word than that. Okay. And we're going to say understanding in terms of like compassionate, being like that. Okay, so you can say considerate, empathetic, compassionate, forgiving, generous, kindly, discerning, sympathetic, perceptive, forbearing, kind, patient, sensitive, responsive. And you've got all of those different words that you can use instead of understanding. Okay? And let's say you want to use the word huge, something that's huge, something that's physically big, right? Instead of using the word huge, you can say colossal, enormous, extensive, gargantuan, giant, gigantic, great, humongous, tremendous, towering, monumental, monstrous, massive, mammoth, magnificent, immense, planetary, prodigious, stupendous, titanic, walloping, whooping, leviathan, mondo, cyclopean, elephantine, 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 like elephant, like elephantine. So it's like that's how I got to the point where I mean, see, it's not about really remembering these words. It's just the fact that the process and the habitual nature, like you're creating a habit of your brain is constantly trying to find nice words, big words, synonyms, and eventually that will translate and manifest in you being a better writer. It'll translate and manifest into you being able to flex your grammar and be more fluid in the way that you speak. You'll be able to enunciate, pronunciate words in a more fluid way. You'll be able to have a more firm control over the English language because these words are bouncing around in your brain and it's a habit, So I encourage you to tell your kids to do things like that, okay? Tell them, hey, when you have to write something for school, an essay, a letter, or something like that, instead of using this word, go to the dictionary, go to dictionary.com and try to find a synonym. And then that process, over time of doing that, you're learning different words. And it really has a big impact on the way that you speak and on the way that you write. And your kid will be getting A+ on those tests. Trust me. Peace.